So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Game House. And today I have an interesting guest, and I say interesting for two reasons. He's my friend. I'm 100% happy saying that this man is my friend. And the truth of the matter is, we haven't actually met in real life. I've never shaken his hand, but I've had enough conversations with him to know that we think along the same lines. And the second part about this is I wanted to get into the deeper conversation around the media coverage of esports, how there's these awesome sites with great content, but there's so many of them. You have the Esports Observer, you have .esports, you have Daily Esports GG, and then up until about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, you had the site that this man was in charge of. I have with me Kevin Hitt. He's the former, I guess you would call him editor-in-chief, overlord, chief writer, chief person in charge of everything of VPEsports. And VPEsports, and this is not me saying anything that you shouldn't already know, but VPEsports is not going to operate the way that it had the previous year or so. And I have Kevin with me. He's going to introduce himself. And if you don't know Kevin in the online world, you're not paying attention very well, because the guy's everywhere doing all the things, all the writing, and all the talking. So, Kevin, introduce yourself to the whole class, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, first, thanks a bunch for having me. I don't think you need to absolutely have to meet in order to be friends in today's technological age. So,
right.
No, I absolutely consider you the same, and so I appreciate the kind words. I was the editor-in-chief of VPEsports up until right around March 15th, I think it was, and we decided to go our separate ways, and so now I'm here, floating down this river, trying to find a direction to see where I want to go, whether it be back into the media side of esports, or maybe some sort of even coaching performance position, or maybe even something else up my sleeve. But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, sir. Thank you. So sort of talk about the story behind VPEsports. Just give a quick background. How did you get it going? What did that conversation look like in your growth path? And then get into the conversation of when the people over you decided that it wasn't working out the way that they wanted to.
Well, a couple things is that the guys that are behind the VPEsports projects are good guys. I really like them. There was kind of triumphant. There's three of them, and it's Dylan, Bing, and Y3 as we call them, and they're good guys. None of them really have any editorial experience, but they have a lot of experience in terms of running a business, dealing with people and things like that. So when the project was first starting, they were looking for writers. Stephen Chu was already there. Andrea Sanu, who is, in my opinion, probably the best Dota 2 writer in the world, she was already there. So they already had, a couple people with talent and things like that. Well, at first I applied as a writer. I decided, hey, let's see what happens. So I applied, and they immediately picked me up and said, yes, we want you. I think they had a little too high expectations of what my view numberships will be, but I'll tell you about that in a second. I'll just say this, and trying to be as humble as I can, but I was the number one most viewed author on the site for 2018, and I had only written 11% of the content.
Wow.
So that can tell you, that whatever I wrote did in fact resonate. So it did well. But I'll tell you, that'll become the actual kind of what did me in the end.
Okay.
So yeah, effectively, I became a writer over there at VP, But we had no editors. There was not one single editor. Everybody was allowed to simply um, take to the site, post what they wanted, and oftentimes there was not two sets of eyes on anything. There was nobody making sure that we weren't in violation of fair use practices with pictures, videos, and others.
Right.
There was nobody making sure that we weren't, libeling people, and things,
Right.
things of that nature. So we were just kind of in this way where people were just writing. Well, I told them, I said, you know what, this isn't going to work. We definitely need somebody that at least has a clue on how to do this. And I'll tell you, I was way in over my head. I wasn't experienced in terms of being an editor-in-chief. I basically was kind of the Swiss Army knife. I knew a little about everything, but not enough. But I knew enough to keep us out of trouble, I guess, is how it works. So,
Sure. Sure.
so no, I was the only guy threatened with 3 lawsuits, nobody else. So, yeah, which will be another story for another day.
Wow.
Yeah, but obviously never got in trouble. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So yeah, so with my role as editor in chief, my time writing really fell off, so I wasn't writing as much. And the business model that they wanted was an editor-in-chief that would just write quite a bit, which wasn't me. I was looking at articles from other writers all day. I was developing business relationships with potential sponsors, which they are using right now. So basically, we just had a difference of opinion, and hey, it's their business. They can run it how they want. I have no hard feelings about it. I've always said, hey, it's your house. Do what you want to do. And they decided that we would part ways with no harm, no foul, no ill will, no bad words amongst us. And like I said, as of I think it was March 15th, I was
Right.
floating down the river looking for something new.
So the way you told that story kind of made me start thinking of how people view content in general. And there's definitely 2 camps. One camp is always create quality. Quality takes time. Quality takes focus. Make sure that you dot your I's, you cross your T's, that you always, whenever you're going to attribute something, you do it correctly. If you're going to use someone else's photo, make sure make sure that you're always following the basic rules, I guess, of journalism, is that you're reporting. And yes, you throw an opinion. That's part of the pie. We all know that. And then there's the other side of the conversation. And I'm not saying VP was doing this. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is there's a thought process of content where you just throw stuff at the wall. Just keep throwing it at the wall, regardless of what it is. It can get sloppy, but it's like you have the opportunity, if you get on the right vibe at the right time, you can have viral hits that boost your profile overall. And people will follow people have a tendency to follow the shocking stuff, which isn't really shocking, but the way that it's worded is shocking. And so what it sounds like to me is that you wanted to put out the quality stuff. You want to make sure, get your quotes correct, make sure that we're not libeling, but we're being honest and factual about things. And if we have a lead, if we hear something, let's verify it a couple times, a couple places, to make sure we're not saying things we shouldn't say. Because people scream on the internet all the time, but unless you have facts to back up what you're saying, it doesn't work long term. So it sounds like to me that you were really focused on that.
Yeah. There's a couple ways to look at it. One, I was trying to make sure I wanted the best of both worlds. Basically, look, I'm just going to put it out there. There's the hunter is a lost breed. There are very few people out there in the world of esports media entertainment that know how to hunt for a story.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're just rewriting what everybody else writes.
Right.
Okay. Cecilia was amazing with her piece over at Riot. That was really, really good. That's a hunter. That's somebody that sees something that's relevant,
Mm-hmm.
that will resonate, and she went and wrote probably the best story of the year. Um, but that doesn't happen in esports. In esports, there's two ways to look at it. If you're just writing feature pieces, it's not going to work.
Right.
You're just not going to get enough views. And I think the company that is basically giving a clinic on how to, get views is Deserto. Those guys are basically the pop culture department of esports. If you look at what they write, everything surrounds like the most popular streamers,
Mm-hmm.
the most popular players, and they're showing you a 15-second clip from their stream. I feel like they've hired people just to watch the streams and clip out the most
Yeah.
fun thing of the
Yep.
day
Yep.
and put it up on there. And that's a very good strategy to get views because look, I'm not going to give away state secrets because I do have something in mind, a new venture that I'm working on.
Nice.
But let's just put it this way. Do 13 through infinity age people, would they rather read something or would they rather watch something? And I think we all know the answer to that.
Right.
That they want to watch and, just kind of get lost in it. But in terms of circle back about VP Esports, in the beginning, you really do have to flood the market with your content. You need, Google to crawl everything. You need to make sure that your URLs and, everything are as good as you can. Your SEO is on point so that when people type in, McSkillet, VP Esports was the #1 story in the world for about 3 hours on that particular tragedy. And it even broke our site. It shut us down for
Wow.
3 hours after that.
Wow.
But I wanted to find a mix between being current and making sure we had every piece of daily news, but I also wanted to do some good work. I also believe that journalists, reporters, writers are supposed to be kind of the caretakers in the space,
Right.
and keeping esports on point. So that's what I was trying to do.
Well, and I have to say that some of the articles that I've picked up through your site, like the conversation that you had, the conversation that you had with the org owner in the COD, who had a spot in the COD World League. I believe it was Brandon from Red Reserve. That was an awesome piece because it's a case study in be careful what you ask for, because when you get that kind of money and you reach that kind of level, there's certain expectations, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's hard to recover. And then you had other people on other content on your site. I this story haunts me because I read through it a couple times. So I believe it was a month and a half ago, Richard Lewis did a series of posts about the Russian mafia involvement in gaming, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Richard is obviously very well connected, and we were very blessed to have Richard with us for the time that we had.
Yeah, it's things like that you read that it's like that's the kind of stuff that stays with you over time, and you read that you're like, this, I want to believe this is not true, but it has all the pieces of a great story in the intrigue and the characters, and it's true, and you're like, holy crap, this stuff is actually happening. And it's that kind of content that you need to bring people into your site on a consistent basis. But, and this goes back to your point, is that there's not enough journalism going on. There's more of people writing what everybody else is writing about the same thing, and they're all sort of going after the same pie, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've got a couple of friends in particular that'll tell you all of us are terrible journalists. There aren't any good ones. A couple of people that'll say, nope, esports journalism, there's only 3 good ones, and it's kind of funny,
Right.
To hear that, because there's so many good people in the space that I can name off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's again the problem. The problem is that you have 14 different outlets that are basically not being looked after, and they're I guess they're just producing content that isn't being seen with a second pair of eyes. It isn't being seen as professional. It's more of a blog type, and that doesn't mean that blogging's bad, but it doesn't attain the level of scrutiny that publishers are looking for when it turns to what they're looking for content, and so that's a problem.
Right. Okay. So the two of us are old enough to remember the time when a time when the internet wasn't so old, and people, and the majority of eyeballs were still on newspapers and television, and there was I won't say better or worse, but I'll say there was a different set of standards for what was going to be published, and the people who published that work, those sorts of things, they had a reputation. Whether it was deserved or not, there was still, it felt like to me that there was still some integrity to it. And now we've evolved, I won't say devolved or whatever, but we've evolved to the point now where the barriers are so low. Anybody can write anything about anything, and they can get anything out there. I mean, you have your own YouTube channel. Social media is great, and social media at the same time sucks, because any moron can post anything, and it doesn't necessarily have to be even true. And so I guess the frustration, and I see it too, and I can hear it each and every time I talk to you, is that the frustration is that there aren't standards anymore. Our expectations have dropped so low that literally anything will get out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's almost like when you're walking through the supermarket checkout and you see that those old magazines, like, aliens have invaded. They are here.
Right.
And they're actually pushing that off as an actual article that's true.
Right.
I forgot what it's called, like The Sun or something like that.
Right.
That everybody's reading. But again, and I think Jacob Wolf is correct when he says that there's just so many. There's more writers than people that can wrangle them. There's more people writing,
right,
that are giving opportunity, whether that be free or whatnot, volunteerism, internships, whatever. there's more people writing than people that can get a hold of their stuff and make sure that it's correct, or people really don't care if it's correct. They're just looking for the quick views, and they'll just write something controversial. Well, what's going to happen, Bill, I'm telling you right now, is there's going to come a point where one of these guys is going to write something that's going to get them in trouble. And that's going to be the moment where that'll be the watershed moment where somebody gets sued, for a judgment of like $1 million or something like that. And then all these sites are going to go, holy shit, that just happened.
Right.
And so then they will have to be more careful, or they'll actually have to pay people that know what they're doing in order to go over, the daily pieces that are written, what's in it, and things like that, to make sure that everything's on the up and up. But this could go two ways. It can evolve and continue to improve and grow, or there's the other side of the coin, Bill, which is this
Right.
whole esports industry, the media industry, can just go under, and it's going to be blog sites galore again.
Yeah.
If folks like NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox and the CW decide they want to go into esports, a lot of those people will be out of a job because nobody will read their stuff.
Okay, so speaking of people being out of jobs, recent news of eSports.com. eSports.com filed for bankruptcy. They're behind on their payments to their employees. So I read a little, and I'm sure that you've seen and heard a lot of things going on over the past several months. What actually went down?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. What actually went down is that they were spending more than they were making. You know what I mean?
Well, okay.
And look, I'm gonna give you a little piece of information.
Okay.
They're not the only ones that are bleeding money. There are.
Okay.
I've got the financial statements for several European companies that people think are just doing outstanding, that are bleeding, tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
They have yet to make a profit in 3 years that they've been in operation, or at least the last 3 years of documents that I've acquired. This eSports.com is actually not an anomaly. They're
Right.
fitting in right with the market trend of seeing people losing their shirt right now, betting that, and I say betting because that's kind of the double entendre, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean there.
Betting on the fact that esports will continue to grow, and in the next 2 to 3 years they'll start to see the revenues be in the black instead of bleeding money. So no, esports.com, not a surprise. They're actually following the market of a lot of these European companies that I'm following. And I don't think they'll be the only one. I think there's going to be some others. And let me just tell you this. I was talking to somebody in the Overwatch League, and they're not altogether sure about if they're going to be able to make the money back that they've invested. They love the league. The league's being ran very well. The communication's wide open. Like, they love everything about it. They're just getting a little skittish about what the return on investment's going to be. And so we'll have to wait and see. I know that they've got some things planned too, but let me just say, it's not as rosy as everybody thinks right now.
And I keep saying that out loud. And of course, I don't have the same reach that you have and some of these sites have. I said this multiple times myself. People want too much free stuff. And so you're having people pouring money into a space to get eyeballs by giving away free stuff. And you're just everything is fragmented right now. Everything is so fragmented. And people say, well, esports is growing in these revenues. I'm like, yes. But people who play shooters don't talk to people who play Street Fighter. They don't talk to each other. They don't hang out together. It's locked in these silos. You have the FGC. They make their money. They have all these games. You have the Call of Duty, Halo, and all the shooters hang out in their space. Those two spaces don't touch. People that play League of Legends don't talk to people that play StarCraft. They don't talk to each other. It's not that they don't like each other. It's just that's not who they hang out with. And so when people talk about the billions and billions of dollars in gaming and esports, it's like, yeah, but the context is you have to understand that it's a segmented market. what works in the first-person shooter genre for content doesn't necessarily work in the FGC. It's a different game. It's a different field. It's a different audience. And I don't think that a lot of people realize that they're betting millions on grabbing all these eyeballs, not understanding the individual needs of each one of the audiences.
Yeah, I think you bring up kind of a good point. And the way that, just kind of hit me in my head was that it's like you don't write about kung fu in Karate Magazine.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
You know what I mean? Because they're two separate, disciplines. And while you might mention something, the people that are practicing kung fu or some sort of different discipline aren't going to buy Karate Magazine.
No.
They're just not going to do it. And I really do think you have something, even though they're all martial arts.
Yes.
They are very segmented, and you're absolutely correct in the fact that the way that they treat the media, the way that they act, the stories and storylines and things that resonate that are coming out of, the different esports are entirely different. We saw Richard Lewis, take, a lot of just heat from people in the FGC on Twitter saying just the most asinine things, threatening his life and telling him don't come to the city or we're going to come after you because he was on the desk for an FGC event. I mean, that's got to be the dumbest thing of all time.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing of all time is just to get mad at a guy just because he's not a guy that's immediately in your camp.
Right.
So how are you gonna grow your game if you're gonna be so close-minded that you're not going to, have somebody like Richard or have somebody like Golden Boy, jump in there. They can instantly help grow the scene and make it bigger.
Exactly.
But it makes you wonder: do they want that, or do they? As another subject for another time,
yeah.
Does the old guard still want to keep control of everything and not let anybody else do something?
Right, and that's an excellent point, because that takes me to this thought that I've had for a long time, and I keep on bringing it up and seeing it proven. People want to talk about eSports being the next football or NBA or whatever. I'm like, nobody owns football. You can get 4 or 5 guys and you can go down to a school down the street and play basketball on the playground, and you can make up whatever rules you want to make up. The NBA is just a governing body. Well, when it comes to Overwatch, it's owned. The way the entire content of Overwatch is owned front to back. The way it's played, I can't hold a tournament and say I'll give the winner $5,000. I can't hold an Overwatch tournament and do that. I have to get approval from Blizzard first, because if they see that and they catch on, they'll shut me down and take the money. And so when people want to talk about esports being on the level of the NFL, like, it's not happening. And here's why it's not happening, is that you have all these gatekeepers, all the intellectual property is owned by the company. So I can't have like a flag football tournament style where people just show up and they pay $5 and then, whoever wins gets the money. You can't do that with esports. And that's part of the problem, but it's also part of the whole story, is that we're in a business model. We're trying to apply a business model that's 50 years old to a current product that doesn't operate in the exact same way. And I don't think people, especially investors, I don't think they understand that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing with media content. You cannot write about esports kind of in the same way that you would do the NFL, NBA,
right,
MLB, NHL. But if I don't know if you remember seeing this, but Mark Cuban and I were actually talking about this probably about 3 months ago, and he brought up that exact same point. He was just like, how do you know what games are going to make it?
Right.
How do you know, look, yeah, CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, Overwatch are the big four,
Mm-hmm.
with Overwatch being propped up by its publisher.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Dota 2, while it has the international, that game is organically just kind of risen to the top.
Yeah.
Because people like it. So, but what happens? What's going to happen when Dota 2, CSGO, and League of Legends? What if nobody wants to play it anymore? What happens then? Now you have, oh, wait a second, hold on, Apex Legends. Remember the hype?
Yeah.
Remember the hype? Where's that gone?
Yeah.
Where is it? I don't see shit about Apex Legends right now, other than everybody has a team.
Yep.
Where are these $1 million tournaments at? I'm
Yep.
not seeing them. So, no, I think Cuban said it, best when he's like, you just don't know what's going to make it. And so if you have, and you make a good point in terms of, look, football's not owned. Football's a game that anybody can play. It's just, in the, open domain or whatever you want to say.
Right.
But what publishers have done, except, and you got to give Valve a little bit of credit that they allow just about everybody to run a tournament if they want to.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? So Valve has created an ecosystem that allows the most people to play their game.
Yes, absolutely.
Which again, that is the way to go if you want to create a sustainable ecosystem. It directly parallels what you're saying about football and baseball, is that, oh, wait a second, how many kids get to play? What would happen if the Major League Baseball owned baseball and said, nah, you can't play baseball.
Right.
We own the game. You can only you can't play in these tournaments.
Right.
Well, that's going to, decrease the pool of players. And so that's why part of me really was bummed out by Blizzard's decision to, limit all the leagues, right? So they're like, okay, we have contenders, we have this, and then we have Overwatch League. Nobody else gets to even play Overwatch in a tournament like format, right?
Right.
Well, how are you going to, why do you think there are the amount of Major League Baseball players there are that are actually talented and not just, being drawn from a small pool of players that would suck?
Right.
It's because the amount of, look, I think it's simple statistics, right? The more people you have, the more likely you are to get more players that are good and even great players.
Yes.
And so, one of the things is, what, again, to your point, is that if you limit the number of players, it's not going to be as good. And then, the 13-year-olds that could be playing in a tournament, that could be falling in love with Overwatch, are only allowed to play it at home and watch it on or watch it on Twitch.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's enough, because when I was playing sports growing up, I always wanted to be my favorite player, and I had that opportunity to be so when I was playing in Little League or playing Pony, playing in Travel Ball.
Right.
I could always say, I'm going to be the next Steve Garvey. I'm going to, for the old timers out there.
Steve Garvey, that's a throwback right there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but and again, which brings me to the point, kind of in esports journalism. I don't know if these publishers know that esports journalism, these guys, we are the best marketing arm and advertising arm they could possibly have.
Oh my goodness, that is truth. Okay, wow, lots to process. So so now that you're on your own, now that you're no longer attached somewhere.
You mean now that I'm unemployed?
I wasn't going to say that word, but you did. Now that you're doing your own thing, what exactly do you have in mind? I think I saw something on Twitter, but you're going to be on Twitch.
Yes. So, one of the side projects that I've always wanted to run, and a show idea I've always had, but people have told me don't do it. You're gonna get a negative reputation. Well, as long as I do it in the right way, I think I can do it. I've always wanted to do a stream called the Hit List, which is basically a show that confronts kind of the esports villain in his natural habitat. And if they want to come on to the show and talk about it, anything. So, the first show that I've got, there was a company that, and this was about 4 days ago. Gosh, and I forget the name of it. But there was a company that advertised for 55 interns to write all their stories. 55.
Wow.
That, I mean, come on, 55 interns? So, and again, there is a place for interns. There is a place for people wanting to enhance their skill set and learn and things like that. That's, it's not a blanket statement, but when a company is advertising for 55 and then all these sites want you to write for free, especially if your Alexa scores in the 100,000s, that means that there's not that many people reading your stuff anyways.
Right.
I mean, basically it's just a portfolio site at that point, I guess.
Yep.
But so you've got all these companies that are, advertising. And so I'm going to take them to task. They are killing the ecosystem. They are absolutely killing and driving down salaries, driving down anybody that deserves to get paid. And so so the idea behind the Hit List, which will be Fridays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitch.
Okay.
Except for this Friday, because I got daddy-daughter date night. It's a dance that, it's a sponsored dance that me and my daughter have gone to for the last 9 years.
Nice.
So, yeah, this Friday will not. But it'll start the next week. I want to say it's the 12th. But I just want to, look, I really want to be a caretaker in the space. I love the fact that esports is something where people can make a living out of it. That if you're talented enough and you work hard enough, that you can make a living. Hard work alone's not going to cut it. I'm just going to be real honest.
Right.
And not everybody's going to achieve their dreams if you just work hard enough at it. The reality is you have to have some talent, okay? So that's why I say if you're talented enough and you work hard enough, you can make sure that you deserve to be able to make a living in it if everything's a fair, playing field. And so that's kind of my beef, is that with companies that are, taking large amounts of internships, when in reality there's only 3 paid staff, yet they have 50 interns.
Wow.
Well, yeah. How are they being mentored? An internship is supposed to be a mentorship.
Right.
It's not just, hey, come. If you write, you'll naturally get better. Okay. No, internships, you're supposed to be guided. In fact, if you look at the government, guidelines and definitions of what an internship should actually be about, interns are supposed to mess up. It is in their guidelines. No, interns are supposed to make mistakes, and you've got to be ready to handle those mistakes. But who's handling intern mistakes if there's 50 something of them and there's only 3 people that are actually getting paid? I wonder if those guys can, take on 17 people each.
Wow.
And yeah, so no, it's this company on Flip. It's this company on the East Coast. I forget their name. But I forget. But that's the kind of stuff that's going to go on the hit list. People that don't pay their players, people that are treating their players poorly.
Right.
If a esports league decides they're going to do something that's unjust, well, we're basically, and this was, what is his name? Josh from PvP Live, the old editor-in-chief, Josh.
Right.
He said something very amazing to me. That has stuck with me for the last year and a half. And he's like, Kevin, you used to work in law enforcement, and your job is to simply shine a flashlight on things. You let the courts decide. You let the courts decide the final outcome. So my job for the hit list is I'm going to examine different things in the esports ecosystem. I'm going to shine the light on them. I'm going to give the audience all the information I have, and then I'm going to let them form their opinions about whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Very nice. I'm excited for that. I have said multiple times that in reality, all we really want as content creators and writers and all this good stuff is people to react to us. That's really what we want. And if we get them to react, then we have them and we can go from there. So I'm excited for what you're gonna do. I know that it will be awesome because you know enough people and you have a network that you're gonna get some really good information, and you're gonna, just the fact that you said that you've seen the financial statements of some European companies, like, wow, I would love to be able just to look at them, not write about it, just be able to look at some of these statements and to see what these companies deal with on a daily basis. So I am jealous of you as I
don't be at all.
It's okay. I'm very jealous of where you're going and what you're doing. So thank you very much, sir, for making time for me. I know that you are busy with the family, with work, with volleyball. You're really into volleyball. I see that on Twitter all the time with your kids, right?
Yeah, no, this is one of the things I guess that people didn't know is that I was an assistant with the women's Olympic team in the London Games in 2012. I was a coach on that staff.
Wow.
So I've coached collegiately for 15 years. Coached Olympians, professional athletes. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that I actually have a vast coaching background in women's volleyball, and won a national championship in 1993. I know that's a long time ago, but I still got a ring for it.
That's right.
And now my little girl, who's 12, has taken up the mantle, and she's decided she loves the game too. So yeah, she's playing a lot, and she's the smallest on the team because I'm kind of a midget at 5'9" in volleyball. Even though you wouldn't believe it, I got paid to play volleyball in college. But being a midget. But
that's okay.
Yeah, my daughter, she loves the game, and she's probably going to be better than I was, so that's a good thing.
Good to hear, sir. All right, well, thanks for making time for me. I know you're an extremely busy man, and I always appreciate any information that you can share with me. I hope that we can connect more down the road. I did, and I'm not afraid to say this, I did enjoy the time that the about 1 month that we actually spent some time together, worked together at VPEsports. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you all the time, because you had some of the best tweets that nobody notices. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, seriously, I do appreciate you bringing me on, and it was a pleasure to have you for that time as the social media manager for us. And who knows, maybe our paths will cross again, and we can collaborate on something more.
Absolutely. Hey, so everybody for tuning in, thank you very much for stopping by. So thank you very much for coming by, and if you love this video and the others that we have on the Game Haus YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. Check out thegamehaus.com. Lots of good articles there, both esports and traditional sports. When it comes to baseball, the season has just kicked off. Lots of good articles over there on the teams going forward, and hopefully you will return soon. We'll see you soon. Bye.